What's going on, everybody? Happy Friday edition of Mile High Hockey. Happy Halloween. Hope you're having some plans tonight, either with friends, family, or loved ones to celebrate October 31st, which I just learned today, Drew, is Nevada Day. You just told me this in the last 10 minutes. That's why the Avs and Golden Knights play in an hour. So we'll do a little preview on that, but kind of funny to have a game at 2 o'clock on a Friday.
I know. Do we like this or not? I think, for me, in what we do for work, this is cool. We get to watch day hockey at 2 o'clock on a Friday afternoon for normal people. I bet this actually kind of sucks. If you're sitting in your office and you're like, well, I don't know how I'm going to watch this hockey game. Maybe you're going to try to record it or whatnot, but I don't know how you watch it live. But it's going to be fun, man. A big matchup tonight this afternoon, against the Golden Knights, a possible Western Conference final preview.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm excited. This is going to be a fun game today.
Could be. Yeah, we'll definitely get into it as the show rolls on. And hopefully you're treating Halloween like a somewhat 3-day weekend, watching the show today and then getting out of there, going and watch the Avs here in an hour if you are live with us at this very moment. But the news of the day, really, the news of yesterday was Martin Necas signing a massive extension worth $92 million over the next 8 years, 11.5 annual average value, gets a full no movement clause for 7 years. Drew, we had hit on this a lot through the first month of the season, but it is done. The Necas contract is signed, sealed, and delivered. I went down to their practice yesterday, talked to Marty, talked to Chris McFarland, Jared Bednar, fill everyone in on that, but just your reaction that, wow, the calendar hadn't even flipped to November, and the Avalanche and the Necas camp found a way to get this done, answering by far the biggest question remaining with the team this season.
Yeah, and I'll be honest, my initial reaction was shock, to be honest, because I've kind of thought all along that this thing was probably going to trend towards him hitting the market, because the way that everything was trending with all these bigger name top tier free agents re-signing with their own teams, it was starting to look like, all right, Martin Necas is going to be the top dog on the free agent market, which means he could probably go out and command $13, $14 million if he has a great year in Colorado, as we all expect him to do.
Which he's trending that way through 11 games. Yeah,
exactly.
He's looking good.
Yeah, so I mean, his competition at that point was going to be Artemi Panarin and maybe Adrian Kempe if they don't get something done in LA. So for me, the fact that they got this done now, we were kind of maybe thinking all right, maybe around New Year, something like that, maybe kind of put a deadline or something like that. But the fact you got it done the day before Halloween is such a huge, huge deal for me, because this now makes it so the entire focus on this season is going to be just about hockey. It's not going to be kind of like it was last year with Mikko Rantanen. It's like, oh, are they going to sign Mikko? Are they going to trade him? What are they going to do? Is he going to get to free agency? We don't have to worry about that anymore. We know Martin Necas is going to be here for the next at least 7 years with a no-move clause. We anticipate all 8 years if all things go accordingly. So this is a big, big deal for this franchise.
Yeah, it was a massive deal, and you could tell that Chris McFarland yesterday, I thought, looked a bit relieved, sounded a bit relieved. He was the guy who traded Mikko Rantanen, and the prize in the Mikko Rantanen trade was Martin Necas. Yeah. With all due respect to Jack Drury, who's a fine player, Necas was the big dog they needed to replace Rantanen. And if you're the GM of the Avs, you can't be the guy that lets Rantanen get out the door via trade and then lets Necas either get traded or walk this summer, right? Because then fans are going to go, well, what did we ultimately get from that trade? Now the trade looks a lot more even with the way Necas is playing on paper and frankly on the ice. And if you're McFarland, it's like, okay, well, I just traded Mikko Rantanen, but that's okay because my legacy is now tied to Necas. Whereas if Necas left and then you just had some extra cap space and you didn't really know what to do with it and you didn't make any big splashy moves, Avs fans were going to feel like we didn't get adequate value. With Mikko being locked in Dallas for the next 8 years and Necas being locked in Colorado in the next 8 years, I've used the analogy, it's like a boxing match. Like, yeah, Mikko and the Stars won round 1 last year, but this thing could go 8-9 rounds, and we'll see when it's all said and done. I think it makes the trade a lot more wide open than it felt like even 24, 48 hours ago.
No, I think it does too. I think, and you mentioned Jack Drury. That's always going to be kind of a part of it as well, and that's kind of my go-to when people kind of knock the trades. Like, well, it wasn't just a 1-for-1 deal. You did get a second player. Now, granted, I know Jack Drury is only a third-line center this year. But Jack Drury's been a pretty darn good player. But the fact that you got a guy that has the potential to have 100-point seasons, maybe several 100-point seasons, playing next to Nathan MacKinnon the next couple of years is such a big deal. And I want to ask you this, Will, because I'm curious, some people are like, well, they only paid $500,000 less than they could have Mikko Rantanen. Now, I think we all know at this point, Mikko Rantanen probably was never going to settle for $12 million in Colorado. He ended up having to settle for the $12 million in Dallas after two other teams told him no at 14 or whatever the number was at that case. But I do wonder what the expectation from those who are huge Mikko guys that didn't like to trade in the first place. What does Marty Necas have to do in order to live up to this contract? Because make no mistake, now with where he's at contractually, he is going to be paid like a top 15, top 20 player in the NHL now. Do you feel like he's a guy that can actually live up to that kind of a deal from what we've seen from him over the last, 7 months?
Yeah, no, it's a lot to unpack there, and I think all fair questions. First of all, what does he have to do to catch up to Mikko or even the score? He's got to win a cup at some point during this contract, right? Mikko got a cup in Denver. Marty's got a cup in Denver. It's not unfair to say the expectations are one Stanley Cup, one championship during the course of this deal. Now, that's probably going to come in the next 4 or 5 years with Nathan MacKinnon still in his prime. Hopefully, Cale Makar is the next priority. Chris McFarland did confirm yesterday that he is, which seems like a no-brainer. But, just on that question alone, what's he have to do to even the score? He's got to go to a parade, much like Mikko Rantanen did in an Avalanche sweater. I don't think that's unfair. Do you?
But no, well, I do a little bit because there's so many
8 years, one cup in 8 years.
But it's not like it's just one player. Like there's so many different variables that go into it to win a Stanley Cup. Marty Necas could go out and let's say this year, if they make it to just the Western Conference Final, they lose in the conference final. So let's say Vegas, but Marty Necas puts up 25 points in the playoffs and they still lose. Is that on Marty Necas that they didn't get over the hump and get to a Stanley Cup final? I don't think it is, because there's so many different things that have to go right, especially the way that things are with the seeding in the NHL now. Look at the way this team last year had no business playing Dallas in the first round because they screwed around the first half of the season and ended up with a bad seed. You end up having to play a Dallas team that you frankly should have been playing until probably at least the second round, obviously with the way it goes, but possibly even the conference final. But everything's got to go right in order for you to get to a final. You got to have good goaltending. You got to get depth scoring. Obviously, your stars have got to produce as well. But to me, it's kind of unfair to put it all on Marty Necas to say, all right, he has to win a cup in order for this to be successful. For me, I think you got to look at him and say, all right, I want to see 30-goal seasons every single year, which, by the way, something he's never done in his career. I want to see him get to 100 points, at least 95 every single year of this contract. To me, that would make this thing more of a success because other guys are going to have to produce in order for them to win a cup. And hopefully that is the case. Obviously, without Necas, they're not going to get anywhere close to a Stanley Cup final. So he's going to have to, be the producer on this line that I think he can be.
Yeah, no, and your point is well taken that if in your hypothetical he has 25 points in the playoffs and they don't get it done, I don't think anyone will be blaming Martin Necas. But we do know that Hurricanes fans knocked him for disappearing in the playoffs. He didn't do a ton for the Avs last year in the playoffs. That this contract does put the pressure now on the postseason success from him. He can't be a ghost in the playoffs when you're making an $11.5 million a year. You just can't.
No, you can't. You can't. But let's remember, there were other guys who were ghosts in the playoffs last year. Cale Makar was a ghost in the playoffs. Devon Toews was a ghost in the playoffs. Like, you could argue their three best players were Nathan MacKinnon, Josh Manson, and Gabe Landeskog, who hadn't played in 3.5 years. So it takes other guys to do it. But I'm fully confident that now with this deal under wraps, that they're going to get this thing going, and he is going to produce 100-point seasons for the next 4 or 5, maybe even 6 years. So I love this deal. I think it's a big deal. I'm not upset with the fact that it's only $500,000 less than what they gave Mikko Rantanen. It's the going rate and what the market is going to be now with the rising salary cap. It's only 11% of their salary cap, which when you look at it that way, it's like, okay, this is not a big deal. Now this sets things up for them to go out and pay Cale Makar next summer, which who knows what that contract's going to look like. And remember too, if you don't, or if you still have Mikko Rantanen, you probably don't have Brock Nelson this year, and you're still searching for a number 2 seed. Now, you can say what you want about his play early on in the season. Hasn't been spectacular, but you're still searching for that number 2 seed if you have Mikko Rantanen. This allowed the Avs to go out and do other things to get depth pieces to make this team a more viable Stanley Cup contender, which I think they are.
Yeah, and you mentioned the cap going up maybe 3, 4, 5 years from now. $11.5 million looks like a bargain for a 100-point a season score. So that would be my pushback on the people who say, well, he only got $500,000 less. We actually are on the same page there. Like, yeah, I know Mikko only got his contract like 9 months ago, but even then still felt like a little bit of a different era in the NHL than it does now with the Kaprizov deal and even the McDavid deal of, guys either wanting the max dollar like Kaprizov or a guy like McDavid saying, well, hey, I can take a little less because this cap's going to go up and we can be massive contenders. One other question I want to ask, and then we'll get to some of the hockey they played the other night in Little Vegas today. does this finally close the door on the Mikko Rantanen saga? I think the organization had closed the door because I think that's what you have to in pro sports. We had heard McFarland say that. We had heard Bednar say that. Mikko's not walking through that door. And I know a lot of people, and there's going to be commenters and folks who listen on 104.3 The Fan say, well, you seem happy about the Necas deal. Well, to me, this finally ends the Mikko Rantanen saga. Like, if Necas had walked, we would have continued to talk about Mikko in this town for the next 3, 4, 5 years because they didn't get adequate return. Kind of what I was saying earlier. Like, I think we can actually sit here on October 31st, and the trade was what, January 24th, something in that ballpark. Like, the saga to me, if it was a chapter of a book, would be January 24th to October 30th. I actually think the Mikko Rantanen trade, yes, we're always going to monitor him. We may see him in the playoffs, but for the first time in a long time, I feel like because the contract is inked, we can sort of close the door on this chapter of Avalanche history.
See, and I actually feel the opposite. Now, I think organizationally, they closed the door immediately.
They had to.
They had
you
to. You
just got to move on.
No question. I mean, I think Jared Bednar said, he's like, yeah, I was over 10 minutes after it happened. But I think for fans and for media members, this thing, because these two guys are always going to be compared.
They're going to be linked for
They're
a long
linked for the
time.
next 8 years.
Yeah.
You're in the same division. Dallas is your rival now. How many playoff meetings are we going to see between these two teams over the next 8 years? Probably
5,
4, 5,
yeah.
6.
Yeah.
I mean, these two guys are always going to be linked. They're always going to be compared together. And I mean, you and I are going to probably sit here all the time and be like, well, you know, who's leading in points? Was it worth it? Does Marty have more points than Mikko this season? Does that actually make the trade worth it? So I think these two guys are always going to be linked together. It's never going to close the door until probably the day that one or both of these guys retire, unfortunately. I think we're always going to talk about it, even though I don't want to. I don't want to compare the two guys because, to me, I've moved on. I moved on from the Mikko thing. But I think for most fans and the media, they're going to look at it and say, yeah, but what if we still have Mikko? Because we still do it with Val Nichushkin and Nazem Kadri.
True.
A lot of people still compare those two, and that's been 3 to 4 years now. So it's never going to end as long as these two guys are with Colorado and Dallas.
Yeah, okay, and that's fair. You're right. Like, once they play in the playoffs again this year, if they play in the playoffs, people are going to be like, well, how many goals did Mikko have? How many goals did Marty have? But I think what I want to get on the record and make clear is I don't have a time machine. I can't make Mikko Rantanen come back and McFarland make that trade. I am an Avalanche fan first and foremost, and I think it would be a pretty miserable existence as an Avalanche fan to constantly be thinking about Mikko Rantanen. It's like thinking about your ex that's just not going to come back. They're engaged, they're married, they've moved on with their lives. Do you buy that point that hopefully some fans, and I'm even doing a little therapy here for myself, like, you've got to move on, because as much as you can say you wish the trade had never happened, it happened. But guess what? The guy they got back looks pretty darn good, and they just inked him for the next 8 years. That's where I'm going with the whole kind of close the door thing.
I think it's all going to come down to how much does Marty produce. If Marty produces the way that we think he can and probably should, playing alongside Nathan McKinnon, if you're getting 100-point seasons, you're getting 30-goal seasons, if he can produce like that, I think most fans will look at it and say, all right, you know what? Let's not even think about Mikko anymore. Let's not even talk about Mikko anymore. But if there's any sort of a slip or dip in production, it's just going to be a talking point. Fair or not, that's just going to be the way it is. I hope it doesn't get to that point. I don't think it's going to, but I think that's where it's going to end up if Marty Necas doesn't produce at a clip, which, like I said, he's now going to be looked at as you're going to need to produce as a top 15, top 20 player in the NHL, and I think he's going to.
All right, 100-point seasons. That's what we're hoping for with Marty Necas. I'm just trying to raise my hand here that, like, getting the deal done is all good. I'm an Avs fan. I hope we're at a parade this summer. I hope we're at 2 or 3 parades over the next 5 or 6 summers. 2 quick things before we get out of here. 1, power play 4-6 the other night against the Devils. That was great to see. Yes. 8-4. Victor Olofsson gets a hat trick. Nathan McKinnon on the board a couple times. Cale Makar 4 assists. Any thoughts on that as the power play turned the corner? And then 2, as we're like 40-ish, 45 minutes from puck drop. You excited for this Vegas game? I know we talked about it off the jump, but like you mentioned, it could be a Western Conference final preview. Odd start time aside, put it this way: if Necas hadn't signed yesterday, we would have been talking about the Devils in Vegas this entire show.
Yeah, no question. It was huge to get the power play going because we've harped on it so much over the last couple of weeks. The fact that you go 4 for 6, the jump alone, you went from 30th in the league to 23rd in the league. That's how much of a difference that made with the power play the other night. But it was good to see them kind of getting back to the successful things that made the power play good the last couple of years. Better shot quality, more shots, more quality shots on goal. Nathan McKinnon ripping the one-timer from the left circle. All these things were things that they had to do. Now, it helped, I thought, a little bit that Jersey wasn't applying the same type of pressure that we've seen from most teams already in the beginning of the season. That's, I think, what was causing some of the issues with them. But just seeing the way this power play got going, seeing Victor Olofsson finally get on the board. I mean, the amount of shots that guys peppered on net and to have no result, to go out and get a hat trick, this was huge. So I think getting that turning point for him was big. And I'm really curious, like looking ahead to today is, all right, you got Vegas. This is a big-time matchup. I always look forward to playing Vegas because, now you're competing with one of the top dogs in the Western Conference. Who's in goal? Is it going to be Mackenzie Blackwood? That's my question. I hope it is. It's about time because, like we talked about the other day, feels like kind of some of the Scott Wedgwood shine is kind of worn off quite a bit. I think he's now below a .900 save percentage. They need Mackenzie Blackwood back in goal today. And obviously, you got the game in San Jose tomorrow where Wedgie should start. But I'm looking forward to it. I cannot wait till 2:00 to get this game going.
All right. I'm not reporting anything.
I'm
not reporting anything. We'll find out in literally 20 minutes, maybe less. I got a little birdie that says it is going to be Wedgwood today and Blackwood tomorrow.
Well, you know where that actually makes sense.
That's what I was told on pretty good authority.
See, now, and I did look at the numbers this morning. Blackwood's actually 0-4 against Vegas in his career.
Okay.
In fact, I think he's got like a 870 something save percentage. So kind of makes sense a little bit. I just wish
tough first game to throw him back to.
Well,
maybe
is.
He'd rather he plays the Sharks. Yeah.
He hasn't played all year. You're going up against San Jose team tomorrow that's quite frankly not very good other than Celebrini and Will Smith. But it's probably the right move, even though it's like, all right, listen, it's been time. We're 11 games into this thing now. I want to see the Avs #1 goalie take the ice against the top dog in the Western Conference.
Yeah, again, I'm not officially going to go on the record, but I am just going to say when you see the tweets in 20 minutes, I think Scott Wedgwood's going to lead them out on the ice.
That's a bummer.
Yeah, so we'll see. Enjoy the game today. Enjoy Halloween. Enjoy the Marty party for the next 8 years in Colorado, and we will see you on Tuesday for another edition of Mile High Hockey.